Well, let's get started. All right. So for the purpose of the editing, we'll start now. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Montessori Lives, Conversations with Notable Montessorians. We are very honored to have this evening with us Alexander Henny, who is one of the great grandchildren of Maria Montessori. Alexander, thanks for being with us. Um, Maybe to begin with, would you explain your position in the Montessori family tree? And I will share one of the photographs that you sent me.
Okay,
Which one would you like to start with?
well, this is fine. Here you can see Maria Montessori with her uh, son Mario, and Mario married twice. Once in the beginning with Helen Christie, and they got four children, and my mother is the oldest one, Marilena. So I am a son of Marilena, and Marilena had three children, and my older brother Peter, myself, and sister Helen. Here you can see it's not very clear, but here you can also see the parents of Maria Montessori uh, and the rest of them, and you can see all the great grandchildren underneath.
Hmm.
That's my generation, and this generation I have joined into the Montessori Pearson Publishing Company. So we inherited all the intellectual work from Maria Montessori and Maria Montessori, and we have the archives, and from there I have started publishing the work.
Hmm. And this is a classic photo with some grandchildren.
So here, I guess Maria Montessori is in her 60s, and on top left is my mother, Marilena, and on top right is Mario, her brother, and underneath you'll have Rolando and the small baby Renilde.
Hmm. Well, thank you for joining us. You're from all the way over in the Netherlands. Whereabouts are you right now, and what time is it?
It's about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm about 25 kilometers south of Amsterdam. And that is in Laren, a place, a village called Laren. Maria Montessori also used to live here in 1936, 37. And my mother also was here. And so it's a well-known place.
Mm. So she lived in the house in the area where you are.
In the same town, yes.
Mm. So what was your relationship with Dr. Montessori growing up? Were you around her much?
Well, as was mentioned earlier, I am from 1947. And at that time, she came back from India and went away again to India. So she was traveling as usual all over the world. So we saw her sporadically.
Mm.
And she used to, live in after the war in Amsterdam at the Koninginnenweg, which is now the head office of AMI, Association Montessori International. You
Mm.
probably know.
Yeah.
So she still can visit her study there, and it's the house she used to live in. And then she often went to the coast where the Pearson family had a holiday house, and they she went there and walked the beaches and studied and wrote and wrote and wrote. And that's also where she died in 1952. And that's why she is also buried in Noordwijk, which is on the Dutch coast.
Mm. So, do you have any memories of being with her? Are there any unforgettable moments of your time with her? I know
Oh,
you
yeah.
were young.
I was 5 years of age when she died, so very small memories of this impressive old lady
Yeah.
with black dresses being very uh, heavy and having a very lovely, kind face and being very lovely great great grandmother. But of course, with a 5 year old, yeah, you don't have too many memories. But
Yeah. What did you most love about Maria Montessori as a person?
uh, as I said, uh, I was a little child, so she was always, like old grandmothers are. Yeah, very
Yeah.
lovely and impressive, of course. She was a very impressive person. So no, but she was always, very open to us and kind and hospitable. So
Mm.
no, it was small but nice remembrances.
Yeah. So, how old were you when you realized the impact that your grandmother was having on the world? And what was that like?
Well, I grew up always with a grandfather, which was the son of Maria Montessori. And of course, he was completely involved in the whole Montessori movement. So we also always got, uh, to know about how important Maria Montessori was. Now, I don't know what age I realized that, but I would think somewhere between 8, 9, 10, maybe. And uh, my grandfather was always a lovely, kind person who took us in nature and told us about the stars and about the animals and insects and all that kind of stuff. That was always very nice. And well, we also at home received quite a few Montessorians from all over the world. When they
Mm.
came to the Netherlands, sometimes they stayed with us in the house, and well, then we talked about things. But as a teenager, you're more or less interested or not, but it's
Mm.
always very nice to see and meet a lot of Montessorians from all over the world.
Oh, I imagine there was lots of attention given to the Montessori family and lots of demands on her time. What were some of the notable challenges of growing up in this auspicious family?
No, there were not very many challenges. It was a natural thing. It was part of our lives, so we just joined in whatever was happening, and depended on when the parents thought it was appropriate to take us or leave us behind or whatever.
Mm. And what were how involved were all your aunts and uncles and and your the other grandchildren in the Montessori movement?
Well, it was very different. My mother, who was the oldest, was really. lugged around the world quite a lot. So when she married my father, she wanted to drop down and have her own family. So she didn't do very much with Montessori except for giving interviews or writing about her, things like that. My uncle, he was a psychiatrist, and he was more involved. He was in the board of AMI, like also my father, who was the treasurer of AMI for years. So Mario, he wrote also one of our books is written by the grandchild Mario,
Mm.
uh, and Renilde, she took all the courses, Montessori courses, and became a teacher and a trainer. And at a later stage, she was a manager of AMI and president of AMI. And that was more or less in my time when I got involved in about 2000, joining the board of AMI. And then later on, um, I started the publishing company in 2006. Um, and the my cousin Carolina, that's the daughter of the grandson Mario. She always supported her father and was involved in that side of Montessori. And then later on, she joined AMI to look after the archives. We 11 great grandchildren inherited uh, the archives and the publishing rights when my grandmother or my step grandmother Ada Montessori Pearson died, and so that's why also Ada Pearson was the second wife of Mario, son Mario of Maria Montessori.
Mm.
And she has always supported Maria Montessori and brought her to the Netherlands and looked after the family for during the war. And then she, of course, was AMI president and so on. So that's also why I called the publishing company Montessori Pearson.
Mm. So you are director of Montessori Pearson Publishing Company. What's your journey to get there? Were you ever drawn to take the training yourself and to teach or
No, I studied economics and married and had children, and we went to New Zealand for 6 years, and we lived in the USA for 3 years. And I just joined international companies as a finance person, while my grandfather and my uncles and aunts were involved in the Montessori business. And then when Ada died, I got into the AMI Montessori business or organization. And from there, I got very much involved in the business. And at a certain stage, when Renilde Montessori was in charge, she said to me, you know, we have all this very interesting archives with a lot of material in it, and there are no really publishers who are interested. Maybe I should take a step back. Maria Montessori always published her books through publishers who were interested in her work. Now, over the years, there were a few, quite a few publishers who published part of her work. And among others, there was ABC Clio, maybe you have heard of them, who published the English language series. And they published 15 titles. But when I started the publishing company in 2006, they, not that they knew about it, but they asked AMI if they knew some publishing company would take over their Montessori titles because they want to stop with it. So at that time I said, okay, I'll take that over. I'll take the books and the titles and I'll continue it. So I received 14,000 books at my doorstep in 2006. And so they started with those titles. And in the meantime, we were developing the psycho books. Maybe you know them, psycho geography and psycho arithmetic. And that's the way, it started. And so I verbished the Clio books, say the title number 1 through 15, put them in, modernize them, put them in a new layout and so on. And now I have added to those 15 another 11 titles from the archives, and we publish now 26 textbooks and 3 letter books done by Carolina Montessori. At the time, no real publisher wanted to continue her work, so there were some Dutch titles and Spanish titles. And in 2012, the Montessori people asked for, can you not organize the Spanish titles? So now I publish 10 Dutch titles and 18 Spanish titles. And
this is the book by your mother.
Sorry?
This is the book by your mother, is that right?
No, this is the book by my cousin, Carolina Montessori.
Cousin, of course, yeah.
She did 3 letter books, 1 diary. We reproduced and published the diary of Maria Montessori when she went to the USA by ship. So during the journey by ship, she wrote a diary, and we produced that diary with appropriate photographs and stuff like that. The second one is a book from letters to her father. She went to the USA in 1915, 16, and her father was getting very old, and so she wrote him from California, where she was staying there for the international world exhibition, which was in San Francisco at the time, and was about education. So she stayed there for about 9 months in San Francisco and in Los Angeles, and gave courses, and she, among others, created there the so-called glass schoolroom, maybe you've heard of that. It was a world exhibition about education,
Mm,
and had built their glass classroom where uh, 30 children were working with her material, and everybody could watch from the outside what the children were doing.
mm,
Anyway, uh, those, the book you showed is the last one of the three, is from a letter from India. Why I showed this one, it's an attractive book, and it has a very good um, biography about Maria Montessori and her life. So it's interesting from that point of view.
mm.
Personally,
And these
I'm not
are from the Pearson series.
sorry,
These are the books that you published through Pearson.
among others, yes.
So
Well,
I'm curious, what did Maria Montessori say in those letters to her father? What was her relationship like with her father?
she had a very close relationship with her father. He even made a book about her, with uh, journal uh, copies and letters and so forth. But when she was in the U.S., the letters were about what she was doing there, and how the American culture differed from the Italian culture, and all her thoughts about the exhibition, and there was also the Panama Canal uh, um, being opened and built at the time, and yeah, very interesting.
Oh. So her father didn't support her doing medicine at first, is that right? But then he,
No, that's not quite right. He opposed at the beginning her entrance into um, university. Yeah, at the time they thought girls should go to teacher college, and that's it. And teaching, if they have to, if they must work. And at that time, if young females wanted to have a career or work, they couldn't marry. And if they married, they couldn't work. So this was very complicated.
yeah.
And that's why Maria Montessori never married um, her her man, if you like.
Oh, and I read when somewhere that when she was a child and she was asked what did she want to do when she grew up, she said never a teacher.
Yeah, possibly. That was too mundane for her, I think. She was
Yeah.
too intellectual to want to do that. So she did quite a lot of university studies, and she was uh, going through all those studies and practice of medicine at the hospital,
Mm,
came across these poor souls who were, you know, um, half-witted, and tried was intrigued how she could help these children.
mm,
So not that teaching, but helping the children to develop. And
yeah. Are there any of Dr. Montessori's works that are not yet published in the archives?
yes, of course, the interesting thing is that Maria Montessori traveled the world and gave lectures all everywhere, let's
Mm,
say. And so there are a lot of lectures, but of course you don't want to repeat everything all the time.
mm,
So we have selected like the 1913 Rome lectures, which was the first international. course she gave. So we have published those lectures.
Mm.
And my grandfather Mario always was very impressed with the 1946 London lectures. This was, of course, at the end of Maria Montessori's life, and she was, had a very interesting time in India, and gave, brilliant lecture in London in 1946. So those we have published. Then during her life, she published books herself, which are the first 8 or 9 somewhere, and we republish those. But in the archives, I guess there are more lectures.
Mm. So, what impact did that time in India have on her thinking?
Well, she was always philosophical, if you like, and she was often very much involved with the Catholic Church, but also with other beliefs. And in India, of course, you had a completely different culture, which intrigued her. And yeah, their uh, philosophy of life was completely different from the European way of life. So she picked up quite a bit of this, Buddhistic type of thought.
Mm. And was that the origin of her ideas about cosmic education, or did she start thinking in those terms earlier before?
I'm going to publish. I'm working on a publication about cosmic education, and the first interesting lecture was from 1935,
Mm.
and then there are more lectures in the 30s. But during her 5, 6 years of stay in India, she got more triggered by her ideas about cosmic education. Of course, she had a lot of Indian children, which she was teaching and lecturing to Indian persons, and of course, you get influenced, I guess, by
Mm.
another culture.
Mm. I'm curious, why do you think there was so little interest in other publishers to take on her works? Like I've always wondered too, why there's never been a full feature movie about Maria's life where you couldn't write a script that's more suited to a Hollywood movie than Maria's life. It was so interesting and varied, but there's never been a movie really about her. Lots of documentaries, but not a full feature film.
Italian movie, and recently there was is a French movie.
Yeah.
The latest movie is quite nice, but it's only about her time at the university. But it's interesting how you can see how she was um, working with the disabled people and so on. So that's quite a nice movie. You should have a look. So there are a few movies, but not a real Hollywood movie.
Yeah. And why do you think so little interest from publishers in reproducing her works?
Well, I've worked for a publisher myself, and of course, it all um, boils down numbers. So if you have a very small niche market, it's very difficult to publish there because um, publishers want to publish books where they can sell 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, and only the pure academic publishers would have smaller quantities.
Mm.
It's a matter of too small a market.
Mm. Alexander, what's your understanding of the essence of Dr. Montessori's message? How do you see her how did you see her model that message in her own relationships with you and others?
I'm not quite sure if I understand your question properly, but I always say Maria Montessori developed her pedagogy around the nature of people. She was, of course, first a doctor of medicine. So what I find very interesting is all her lectures about the development of a person in connection with development of the body. So she compares certain mental developments with the circulation of the blood and that kind of thing. So what strikes me is that she really studied human nature or humans and modeled her pedagogy around the development of the human. So it really follows the development of a child from birth to 18, 24, and it's based on pure nature, and that's why I also always say Montessori pedagogy can never be old-fashioned because people have not changed over the last, I don't know, millions of years. They just, they get born the same way. They start walking at the same time. They start um, doing a lot of, walking and also that she uh, you can apply it all over the world because each child never doesn't matter where you're born has the same development as a being. Uh, and the interesting thing also is what she really stresses is that humans are very flexible. They can go any place and adapt to that place. And so you can see very many different cultures of people who are basically all the same, but from the outside they look different, they speak different, and they act different because of their uh, surroundings, because they were raised in their surroundings.
Mm.
Does that give you a bit
Yes.
of?
Um, I wanted to ask you about that, this question of whether humans are changing. There's some talk I've read that modern technology, digital technology, is beginning to change childhood and also nutrition. So, for example, in some parts of the world, children are entering puberty much earlier than they used to. And also that the prevalence of screens and phones are making children much more anxious than they used to be. And so it's harder and harder for many children to enter concentration in classrooms. Would you say that these changes would affect um, uh, the human tendencies at all?
No, I don't think so. I think that basically people do not change. Okay, they get influenced by their surroundings, and that is always what Maria Montessori said, that they would adapt to any kind of surroundings they are in. Um, you know, in certain areas of this world, children get married at 15 or younger. And that has been going on for years and centuries. So I think, although current society has a lot of influence on the children, that basically you have to approach them the same way by trying to get them to get to their concentration, to normalize them. And okay, I understand that it's going to be more difficult because of the impulses of all the social media and all the different screens. Um, there are quite a few Montessorians who say that you really shouldn't expose very young children to screens, and that may be well, but that's more a medical than an than a pedagogical kind of thing. So it's hard to say what to do with that kind of influence on babies.
Mm. Dr. Montessori was very proponent of using technology, the advanced technology of the day. For example, 16 mm film she was using to bring experiences that were too dangerous or too ancient, or too far away to children in classrooms. Do you think she would embrace computer technology if she were alive now?
Absolutely, yes. She was always interested in what was happening around her and the new technology. But of course, she would then analyze it and come up with a very practical and pedagogically system to be used.
Mhm. So how widespread is Montessori education now in the Netherlands?
In
In the Netherlands, in your country?
it always have been very, very densely spread. We have very many, about 4,000 schools, I think, but of mixed quality.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem we have, is that the name Montessori was never protected, and I could not protect it anymore. So anybody can use the name Montessori for anything they like.
Mm. So what percentage roughly would you say Montessori is in the Netherlands of all the schools there?
That's hard to say. I would think about 20%.
20. Okay. And what influence do you think that that has had on um, culture and society in the Netherlands?
I would like to turn it around. I would think that since Maria Montessori came to the Netherlands and to many other countries, a lot of educationists have copied or has taken up her theories and applied it to their own systems.
Mm,
It had an enormous impact on pedagogy in the world.
yeah. What do you see as the biggest challenges faced by Montessori in the Netherlands?
Um, I don't know if it's challenges. There are not particularly challenges, but it's as a matter of yeah, I don't know how it works in Australia, but I mean, you got education ministers and influencers who would accommodate Montessori education or not. There's a lot of interest at the moment, I would think. Also in the Netherlands, it is yeah, uh, moving forward still. Even, you know, public schools changing over to the complete Montessori method. So the impact is still, after so many years,
Yeah.
active. I guess you have, like in the past, what do you call it, the cycles
Yeah.
uh, of interest going up and down.
How does Montessori fit into the public education system in the Netherlands?
Um, well, the biggest problem I think is that we still have a teacher college where teachers are being taught, and it's still the old-fashioned way of doing. The teacher has to teach, and it is for many teachers very difficult to change to being an aide, to being in the background, and trying to get the children do their work.
Mm. So it's interesting that that idea, that old idea of te the teacher as imposing curriculum on the child is still prevalent in the Netherlands, given the influence of the Montessori family and the prevalence of Montessori schools in the Netherlands.
No, also in Italy, her birthplace, or Spain, where she used to live, um, it's still not an education system which was adopted by the governments, unfortunately.
Yeah. What do you see as some of the big challenges faced by education in general around the world?
Challenges?
Mm.
Can you rephrase it, please?
Some of the challenges that education systems around the world are facing right now. What do you think is the biggest impact of education systems on society that needs changing?
Well, it's a difficult question. Let's say first of all that I'm a bit skeptical in uh, my views on government and the Ministry of Education. They are usually uh, politically based, and you have very little influence on them. We have tried in many countries to try and see if we couldn't adopt or get the Montessori education adopted as a national curriculum. And somehow it never works. It never do. The challenges you're asking me about is that the world gets opener and opener and opener due to the social media and the internet. So children get influenced by, to my opinion, terrible influences, and they get. It's very hard to influence the influencers. So I think that's where the challenge lies:
Mm.
influencers and the ministers of education.
Why do you think Montessori is not more widely adopted around the world? This education system provides so many answers to the problems in the world today in society, and yet it's still a drop in the ocean.
I think it's because it was never adopted in the universities or the teacher colleges. We in the Netherlands used to have the teacher colleges, the, the students could choose between the national stream and the Montessori stream. And this was, I would think, 50 years the norm. And then some time ago, it was abandoned because let's say that over time in the Netherlands, the Montessori schools were a bit diluted.
Mm,
They got teachers which were not properly trained. And if you have teachers who are not properly trained in Montessori education, you can get a very bad Montessori education. So I would think that the bad influences has corrupted the system in many countries.
mm. This Maria Montessori, one of Montessori's, I guess, ultimate aims or dreams was that her scientific pedagogy would reform society from within. Do you see any signs of hope? Do you still hold out that Montessori can save the world? If we look around, the world is in pretty bad shape right now. Do you see?
That um, I'm still optimistic that her theories and pedagogy disciples in, I know if that's an English word, but it drips in the pedagogical minds of a lot of teachers and pedagogues. And I think in the Western world, uh, there's a lot of that influence there, in my opinion.
Mm,
Uh, I can't speak for China or the African continent or the Far East. Um, I know too little about their pedagogical systems than anything else. Of course, Maria Montessori have tried to convince India to adopt her pedagogy, but apparently it didn't work.
mm,
Too big a country, maybe.
mm.
Like in the
Of
USA, I think in the USA, you have the most Montessori school as a
yeah.
program.
Mm. Of all the books that you have published or read, what do you think? What's your favorite book of Dr. Montessori or
Well,
other
that's
than?
hard to say because she wrote books for different age groups.
Mm,
So, I like The Secret of Childhood for the small children, The Absorbent Mind for the, 3 to 6, and say the 1946 lectures, also for, the middle age group. And then, of course, the adolescents book is interesting to read about when you work with adolescents.
mm,
And I would, also working on a second book on adolescence because we found quite a lot of material still in the archives about her ideas about adolescence.
mm,
Of course, her ideas on adolescence are a bit radical in terms of, you know, You don't want to send all your teenagers to the country and work the farms of the country, but it's a very interesting concept, though.
Yeah.
There are
So,
many countries who try to do hybrid,
yeah,
meaning that you would have a certain amount of time at school and a certain amount of time in the country. So
yeah. Well, life in most countries has changed so that there's much a higher percentage of people living in urban areas than the countryside when she wrote, I guess. But do you think there are any other areas where Montessori needs to be updated to better fit the modern world?
I'm not sure that Montessori should be updated, but it should be installed, or what do you call it? Should, more Montessori should be in the classrooms
Yeah.
than now.
Mm. Would you agree that the Montessori method is still an experiment that teacher scientists conduct every day in their classrooms? Or should they just do whatever their trainers tell them in their training and not try and change anything about it?
That's a double question, to my opinion. I mean, that you would scientifically try to use your pedagogical knowledge on the classroom you have in front of you. Definitely. I mean, uh, cultures are different. The differences in people now compared to in the past are different. But the theoretical side, I don't think you need to change. I mean, I still believe strongly that you would have to have three age groups together, and that you would have certain what do you call it, lessons at certain times, certain intervals, and that kind of thing. Um, Also, the whole mathematical ingredient, if you like, is, in my opinion, very important to keep. You have to try and keep the mathematical insets and all the other material there to work with, because that triggers children, regardless of how old or how or from where they are, and that kind of thing. I can keep on going, but I won't.
Hmm. Well, I want to give an opportunity for others to ask questions of you. Does anybody have anything they would like to ask Alexander?
I have two questions. One question is, when is the second adolescent book coming out?
Ah, well, I hope next year.
Fabulous.
Liz will buy the first copy.
I might. The second question is, did you go to a Montessori school
Yes,
all the way through, or just, sorry, I missed it.
Can you repeat?
yes, I did, and my children did.
And did they go, is that all the way through from early
Well,
years to adolescent?
no, my brother went to the adolescence school, but we moved at the time. No, let's say it this way. I was born in The Hague. My parents moved to Amsterdam, and then they moved to Laren, where I live now, and where Maria Montessori also lived. And at the time, when I was a teenager, I used to live here, and there's no Montessori adolescent course.
Mm.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Anybody else?
Well, this was a great pleasure, Mark.
Yes, Alexander, thank you so much for your time. It was so interesting chatting with you.
I hope I have been able to answer some of the questions.
Yeah. Victoria, do you have a question?
Hi, yes, I do. Uh, it's related to the spiritual preparation of the teacher. So as you mentioned, when Maria Montessori was in India and where all the cosmic education started to be developed with Mario, and you said that the relationship that she has with the Catholicism. So where is at the moment and in teacher preparation that spiritual preparation of the teacher to be in the classroom and take care of that essence without being definitely any religious uh, inclination. So like the first story, it was the God with no hands. And, I can see the deviation for that title to something else, to the story of the universe, like perhaps. That is my question.
Can you repeat it? I mean, I don't understand what your question is.
Is about the preparation of the teacher. So Montessori, we are teachers that we go to, an institute, wherever we are in the world, and we get, all the curriculum and the Montessori curriculum and the great stories and the key, but how do we prepare ourselves as a person according to Montessori's writings of the spiritual preparation of the teacher as the essence in the Montessori classroom?
I believe that she tried not to impose any religion on any person, but that you would have to concentrate yourself only on the child, and that the child is leading you and not you leading the child. Is that an answer or too short?
What do you think is the secret of the personal transformation of the teacher, which is such an important part of teacher training?
As I mentioned before, the transformation is that usually we as adults, but also within the teacher colleges, we are trained to teach. And in Montessori, you're not supposed to teach. You're supposed to follow the child and give at the right time an instruction at the level of the child.
Can I ask?
Wait a minute, yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Can I ask Alexander? Why do you think that the work that Dr. Montessori did with the White Cross didn't take off to the extent that she would like it to? And how do you think that might work today?
I think that it's a political question.
Mm.
The White Cross is a wonderful idea, but somehow there were no rich influencers, industrialists, or whatever, who gave billions of money to set up an organization like the Red Cross.
Mm.
I think it's that more than any flaw in the idea.
Mm. Because it was such a great idea. And so much work to do still.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Alexander, thank you again. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Very much appreciate your time joining us from the Netherlands.
Thank you, Mark. It was my pleasure. I hope I shed some light on the issues you raised.
Yes, it was wonderful to hear your insights. Thank you again, and thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.